Alright, so this video we're checking out the new EMAX Tinyhawk Nanoscout, and we will take a very close look at this new model here shortly. I just want to get the normal stuff out of the way first. So this is the ready to fly kit that they sent, which includes the controller, which is an Express LRS 3 controller, and the goggles. This is an analog system, so this is analog goggles. Now, the controller and the goggles have come in many previous ready to fly kits. I will link the Tinyhawk 3 ready to fly kit that I reviewed in November 2021, 3 years ago, and I covered the remote and the goggles in detail in that video, so I'm not going to cover those again in this video. So if you want to see details on these two components and how they operate, I will link that video down in the video description. It's exactly the same. But basically they have stickers on here: beginner, intermediate, expert mode, and then arm, disarm, and then you have your flip over mode, turtle mode, and beeper. So all that's the same. The case is new. It's the same case. It was previously like a blue plastic color, and now you have this gray cloth color, but otherwise the case is the same. All right, so the rest of the stuff that comes in the package, like a USB-C cable for charging the controller, and a micro USB cable for charging the goggles. That's the analog goggles still use micro USB. Got a little mount here for the controller to mount the monitor, because the monitor comes off of the case, the box goggle. A few tools here: screwdriver, Allen wrench, and a few extra screws. Get a spare set of these 31mm, they're called Avia props, and then you get the spare connectors here. These are the new EM 2.0 connector. I will talk about that here in this video. A couple of antennas for the FPV monitor or FPV goggles. This is the charger that's included. Obviously powered by USB on 5 volts, and then you have 6 ports here. These are these EM 2.0 connectors for charging up the 1S LiPos. They include 2 of these 320 milliamp hour EMAX 1S LiPos, and these are the EM 2.0 connectors here. This is a brand new connector, open source, so these currently are the only places you can get these batteries, or you have to buy the connectors separately to make, or you can convert existing batteries, although I don't think beginners will be doing that. And your standard documentation, support, propeller warning, Express LRS binding, and your disclaimer, and of course you get your standard set of stickers. Now, in terms of pricing, you can buy the drone by itself. It's going to be $109 just by itself for a bind and fly, and it, of course it's going to be Express LRS. If you're looking for Free Sky, Spectrum, and other versions, sorry, I don't really know how to help you there. I think there's ways you can take this apart and add an external receiver, but it doesn't seem to be that particularly easy to do. And if you want to get the ready to fly kit with everything here, controller, goggles, it's going to be $259.99, so pretty much in line with the Tinyhawk 3 series ready to fly kits. Alright, so here is what it looks like. Pretty much looks very similar to the original Tinyhawk 3. Of course, now the motors are upright instead of inverted. And the reason they've made this is because I guess a lot of the Tinyhawks, or a lot of tiny whoop races, are spec'd for 31mm propellers or 65mm, and obviously the Tinyhawk series is all 40mm propellers for those that were excluded from a lot of whoop races. And they did make a 31mm prop whoop previously. It's called I think the Nanoscout, and that didn't do so great because while it was primarily targeted towards performance, it wasn't very durable. The prop guards broke pretty easily. It was very light and fast, but also not very durable. They have gone the opposite direction with this one. It is a lot heavier, but a lot more durable, and supposedly this is a tank. Now, I have crashed it a fair amount, and you probably can't even tell. But as I say about crashes, it really depends on the pilot crashing it, because as someone like myself who's flown a lot and crashed a lot, my crashes aren't the same as someone who's just starting out. So if you are getting this as a ready to fly kit here and you're just starting to fly, I can't attest to what your durability is going to be like compared to me. Nothing is broken for me. I've crashed this a lot. I can't even tell anything's been damaged. It looks still pretty much brand new as far as I can tell. A little bit of scratches from the props, the prop guards hitting the props, but you can't even see that on camera. But as a beginner who's never flown before, sometimes those crashes can be a little bit more severe. And so if you have a really bad crash, again, every crash is different. While this is supposed to be a tank, I'm not going to say it's indestructible, but it's probably pretty close compared to others in this class. So if you're looking at getting into tiny boat racing or just drone flying in general, you want something that's pretty durable, that's going to last, then I would consider this, as someone starting out. Also, if maybe you're an intermediate pilot, you maybe don't crash quite a lot, but you're tired of your tiny boats breaking and you having to repair them all the time, then maybe consider this, because maybe you'll be up in the air more and crashing or repairing less. So that's another reason why, while this is a lot heavier, you may want to consider it. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and show you what this weighs. And it's going to be, I think, 22... Okay, so it's supposed to be 22.9, but on my scale it's 23.3. And then with the battery, the 321S, we're going to be at 32.14 grams. So yes, it is considerably heavier than the latest trend. For example, I am currently building ultralight whoop that I'm trying to get under 14 grams, and then this is pushing 23 grams. So yes, that weight makes a big difference in terms of performance and flight time, but the flight time in this one, I'll talk about that here in a second. They're saying about 3.5 minutes. I was getting like 2 to 2.5 minutes in this battery, but the battery voltage warning settings on this out of the box was set incorrectly, which they're going to fix for the production version. So I guess technically this is prototype, but it's basically a beta flight setting. I would fly it around and I would get like the low battery warning like before 2 minutes on this battery, and then we would get the land now warning around like 2.5 minutes. So I thought, wow, okay, the battery doesn't seem to last very long, or as long as they would say. But when I checked the voltage on the batteries, they came back at storage charge. So yeah, basically I was only using half the battery. So 3.5 to 4 minutes probably seems reasonable for this if you lower your voltage settings. But of course, beginners don't know how to do that, and EMAX is going to correct that. All right, so with that out of the way, let's talk a little bit more about the specs. The motor is interesting. It is an 08015 22,000 kV motor, so not quite as tall, or not quite as tall as an 0802 motor. It's a little bit shorter, so it's a little bit flatter motor, but it's 08. It's like an 8 millimeter in size. So, and they went with 22,000 kV. So they're saying that when they designed this, they wanted a little bit different motor for more efficiency at this weight. And so I guess, getting 3 to 3.5 minutes is probably about right for this. And they also designed this prop specifically for this motor. So this prop might not work the best for other motors, like an 0702, for example. I haven't tried that, but I'm told that this prop was designed specifically for this motor. The flight controller in there has 6 amp ESCs, whereas typically most flight controllers have 5 amp ESCs, so a little bit better there, but it's still an F411 flight controller, and the Express LRS receivers in here are still SPI based. So if you're not a big fan of SPI based receivers, then you may want to stay away from this model. Typical Tinyhawk fashion here, they have the inverted flight controller with the USB port pointing upwards instead of downwards, and then they put the VTX on the bottom here. And the VTX is power switchable from 25 milliwatts to 400 milliwatts, but it is locked from the factory due to FCC rules. And to unlock it, you have to press the VTX button, which is right there, and you see a little hole there in the plastic. So you hold that down while plugging it in, and then that will allow you to unlock it. Although I just flew mine 25 milliwatts in my house, and as you saw, and you can see in this flight footage, it's perfectly clear video for me. Probably the reason I got really good video is they have this nice long antenna that's away from the drone. That does help in terms of getting better video quality. And then the camera here is the RunCam Nano 3. It's a pretty low angle, so you can see the prop guards in here. And if you want to go faster, as you get more experience, you can adjust the angle and then tilt that camera more up, so you can have more up tilt and go faster. On the current angle, it's about this much tilt, which is pretty fast. I mean, it's fast enough for small spaces. You'll see, here I'm going to start showing you some flight footage. I flew originally out of the box settings, out of the box rates, and in angle mode, just to see what the beginner experience is like. And I was told that they have tuned this specifically for beginners for the out of the box experience. So what that means is they have very low rates, so it's more easy to control. It's a little bit harder to get out of control, although you can still get out of control. But it's very tamed down in this setting, so not much pitch in terms of angle. You can't go that fast, so I'm going as fast as possible, as you see here in the video footage. So this flight I'm showing you here is basically just angle mode, stock out of the box settings. This is kind of, as a beginner, if you would push it as hard as possible, this is probably about the level of performance you're going to get out of this. And then there's going to be a second flight you'll see a little bit later where I put in my own rates, which is much faster, which I'm more comfortable with, and I flew it in acro mode, not angle mode, and which basically it's like unlimited rates, or you can just do whatever I want basically. And that you'll see is probably the maximum performance you're going to see, at least on this camera angle. Although I could have, that's the one thing I didn't do, is readjust the camera angle. I probably should have done that for the faster flight you'll see in the second clip. And that's what it gives you an idea what the performance level of this could be. But at the same time, I can't, say that this is better than any of the really ultralight ones that have come out recently, like for example, the Hummingbird RS or the Air 65. Those are obviously way lighter and going to be way faster, especially in the hands of an experienced pilot. So if you're thinking that this is going to be better than those lighter ones, probably not, but this one's probably going to be more durable in the long run over a large number of crashes. So that's your goal. If you want something that's going to fly and keep you in the air and less time worrying about making repairs, then yeah, this was definitely a tank and definitely fits that tank class. All right, so I want to show you how the battery goes in here. So see the connector is kind of like this, where it's curved, and you're going to be plugging in like so, and so you're going to have the battery curved the same way. And then there's a rubber band here in the bottom. They do have a spare in the bag in case you lose this, because it possibly could pop off in a crash. But you just basically slide it under there, and then the rubber band is actually gripping onto the plastic from the battery, and then it will just plug in like so. And I have not had the battery eject on me. This seems to be working okay, but I think that over time you're going to have some dust get underneath here, and you're going to probably want to take this off and just clean it off, like wash it and dry it off before and put it back on, because as more dust gets on here, it gets more slippery, and the battery could eject if this gets too slippery. So just something to keep in mind. Anyway, I think that ought to cover it for this model. And again, I think this is going to be for a specific type of pilot that is more concerned about durability over performance, because definitely at this weight, it's just not going to perform the same as some of the more recent ones that have come out that are much lighter. But at the same time, if you're one that doesn't want to be repairing stuff all the time, then this is one you may want to take a look at. All right, that's going to do it for this video. Link will be down in the video description if you guys want to check it out. Talk to you guys in the next one.